Hi, folks, and welcome to the Sunday Morning Samoflange. I'm Matt.
I'm Benjamin.
And I'm Mikey.
And
wait, he's not here. I want to talk about this before we talk about the show.
Let's do it.
So, yesterday, was it yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Okay, I sent out a text saying, hey, who's done? Because over the weekend, I kind of said I had 2, you said you had 2, Mikey had 2, or something like that.
2 episodes left.
We were all toward the end. We were
getting
so
close.
I said, hey, well, let's just try to watch over the weekend and see what happens. So on Monday, I just gave a heads up for everyone what's going on. Mikey had already finished it. You were on the last episode.
Yep.
Mikey sent you a text saying, hey, it's going to be an hour and 40 minutes, so plan accordingly.
Right.
If you're thinking about watching an hour before bedtime, look out.
Yeah.
Even though I would argue,
it's basically a feature-length film for the finale.
And I would argue you'd have to stay those last 40 minutes because that's when it started picking up.
Correct.
Anyway, so we were all ready to go. Now, Mikey thought that you were going to text us to tell us if you had finished it or not. My impression is that we had already told you plan accordingly. And that you would have said something. You wouldn't have just let us shown up here and say, oh, by the way, guys, I could not finish it. Like the closest thing would be like, I got, maybe like a half an hour. Oh, wait, guys, I got 25 minutes on this. I'll be a little late. I'm coming.
Right.
I thought at least you were going to finish it and because you would have said something.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And I did. I finished it early because I had to go to rehearsal tonight and perform and things like that. But
So Mikey's not here. He's going to miss out. But
we're all going to miss out. We all are lesser because of his absence.
Maybe. But I will say this. This is spoily.
Yeah, let's make sure to clear that. If anyone hasn't listened to this podcast before, anytime that we will discuss video games or board games or TV shows or movies, just expect that you should have watched it already, unless you have zero interest whatsoever and just want to hear a nerdy take on a popular show and or board game. And I'm maybe not nerdy, but just an excellent take. Hours.
Now,
with complete humility.
Generally speaking about the series as a whole, better than season 3. Agree or disagree?
Infinitely agree.
Yeah. Season
3 was the low point.
It was really bad, and I thought maybe they should stop this and they shouldn't do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried about season 4. I still am for this reason. Now, I hear this is the last season. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Okay. All right. So I thought not, because it turns out that there's another monster from the underworld.
Yes.
And it seems like, to me, they're going to start.
But we should clarify that this is just part 1 that we have watched.
This is part 1.
So we're still waiting for part 2.
And I despise how
I know. How I'm not a fan of this new format.
A lot of TV shows do this now.
Oh.
They do a part 1, Walking Dead has 3 season
finales.
Oh,
you're kidding.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
No, I'm not a fan.
Better Call Saul, which I love, has its 2nd season finale coming up later on this year. No.
2nd season finale?
The second half of the season finale.
Okay.
I was like, oh, get out of here. And so everyone's doing this now to drag things out. I don't know if this has something to do with everyone's contract. If they do a part 1, part 2, they can keep them at a low cost. I don't know.
Probably.
But it sucks.
But also, you pay for Netflix by the month. And
that's the reason why they're doing it.
Correct.
That's the reason. They want to keep you subscribed because they know a lot of people are dumping after this.
And Netflix has just changed their password policies, and they're enforcing that now. So
they're losing money.
But no more sharing of your password unless you're in the physical location. Now, they're not doing that in the United States yet, but they are enforcing that in other countries as a test run. So people who they quite obviously are sure that you are sharing their password and you're nowhere near that same account where it's logging in, then they are cutting it off and or charging you more.
Which sucks because it should be on computers because you can take your laptop traveling and watch Netflix
No, that's
else.
where the hang-up is, and that's why they're testing it in like Brazil and other places right now, and they're not doing it in the United States because people are coming up with these scenarios. They're like, well, what about this situation?
Well, when we travel, you bring your laptop or tablet with you to watch.
Right. But because of the Russian sanctions with the war in Ukraine, Netflix and everybody else had to say, we're no longer going to provide any services to them. And so they lost subscribers for the first time in forever. So maybe, but I feel like that all of this with Stranger Things was most likely in the works long before the war in Ukraine started, long before they ever thought they were going to lose viewership.
No doubt.
And, they had it planned a long time ago.
And the thing is, though, a good quarter of the show is in Russian.
Yeah, which is ironic. Right.
Yeah, it's funny because it's pure Russian.
Which I loved. I
like that.
I thought it was great.
I'm fine with that. No, I had no problem with that because it fits the storyline.
Yeah.
And it's not like
And in the 80s, Russia was the big bad
Russia
villain.
was the Cold War bad guy.
We were all, every bad guy in every movie
feared Russia.
was Russia. Yeah,
Russia's
Russia
gonna
and
nuke
Vietnam.
us. Yes.
That was it.
Yeah, that was all we knew back then.
Those were your villains.
But it's better than season 3, obviously.
Without question.
Without looking at the finale, I was interested in the main villain. There's
Yes.
a guy who can somehow he searches out for kids who have trauma in the past, starts giving them headaches, then starts giving them dreams in a way, then eventually comes into their
Freddy Krueger
dream state.
his way.
It's very Dream Warriors.
Yes.
It is very. I was going to say that. It's very
Dream Warriors is his way into the real world and crumples him up like a piece of paper.
Dream Warriors because of redheaded girl. That's what I kept thinking. Dream Warriors because she finds his origin, like she finds Freddy's origin in the furnace area, basement area.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
All right.
But it's a little bit different.
That's good
but
stuff.
And I don't blame them for this because that's the whole point. Is to riff off of 80s horror. But
that's part of the beauty.
In my opinion, and this is not just because Robert Englund did a guest star appearance in there, which, by the way, Megan called immediately. I did not get it.
Really?
Until Megan said something.
It took me a few seconds to see it. Like, he turned around, and then it was when he first started monologuing that I was like, oh, my God.
It was a couple of little scenes back and forth with, what's-her-face.
Yeah.
And Megan goes, that's Robert Englund. I went, no, it's not.
Oh,
it is. I was suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, it is.
And my favorite part about that too was because so many people had that moment and they knew that the very first credit after that episode ended needed to be with Robert Englund.
Yeah,
that was the very first second of the credits because they knew. They knew
to go ahead just in case you didn't have Megan with you or someone else that knew it immediately. I think I would have gone the whole time and not known it.
And you would have been like, oh, what?
Oh, then I would have been like, wait a minute, let me go back. Because I would have thought, I was like, was it the guy in the jail cell?
Yeah. And you would have had to watch it again.
I'd had to go back and watch the scene
I would
again.
love to see the statistics that Netflix has on when people pause, rewind, and what they watch over again. Because they track all of that.
Oh, yeah.
They don't release those numbers, but they do have it internally. And I would love to read all of those statistics. That's fascinating to me.
No, it would be interesting. They know what moments are really hit and what are hyped up by the fans.
Yep.
So everything all in all, it was good. It was good. Better than 3. Maybe on par with 2 or a step behind 2. Not sure. And nowhere near number 1.
Nowhere near.
The best. Problems. Not many. But I'm going to say this. There's a flashback with the redhead girl thinking about all her friends, right? Dream Warriors. They're trying to save her, and she's looks like she's going to die. And she can't make it to that rift opening.
Correct.
And then she has a great memory moment with all her
that's
friends.
right. We have a flashback with everybody. Yeah, from all episodes before.
From two seasons ago, which was also 5 years ago, and it looks it.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah. Quote unquote.
And they're doing 2 years. They're
ago.
saying 2 years.
Are they really?
Yes, because it's 1986.
Oh, you're right.
And I was
never caught that.
I thought it's got to be 1989 now to grow up with the series. Years have passed, is what I assumed. And it said 86. I went, no, please don't do this. It's the Harry Potter Deathly Hallows problem where you have a bunch of college kids who look like college kids who are playing high school kids, and it stretches because everyone else is grown up and they look like they're in college too.
Grown 2 feet.
You kind of believe it may be a high school, but it's not. They're way too old. And they grow up too fast.
No, you're right. I just realized that they did that, and I don't know. It didn't bother me too much, but now that you say
2 years ago, she's a little girl,
Yeah.
and she's nowhere near that. I was like, oh my gosh, she aged 5 years since then, and you guys should not be showing this.
Look, trauma does terrible things to people.
It ages them quickly, man.
Ages them
quickly. And the thing is, I get it. They didn't know season 1 was going to be so popular. They had problems with the pandemic, stuff like that, but this is why you can't slow down. You cannot stop. Once you're in it to win it, once they found out season 1 was a hit, you hit the ground running with the season 2. You can't tell me they didn't have a kernel of what they want to do. Yes, I know you want it to go well, but even during the pandemic, they said, no, guys, we are growing up. We cannot wait a year. These kids shoot up. I mean, that teen spot is where kids get their growth spurt.
Of course.
They hit their growth spurt after that. And it was not painfully obvious at the beginning, but during that flashback, you're like, only 2 years have passed, and you can tell they have grown, and they're all in their young 20s now, mid-20s now. I get it. It's fine, but that was kind of, I wish they hadn't have done it. And if you watch these in order, you'll be like, oh my gosh, these kids are growing up really. You would have noticed it more frequently if you watch the whole series.
Agreed. And I think 10 years from now, people will be much less forgiving if they go back and watch it. Because people will have forgotten about the pandemic and how much it changed life. And I think people are more forgiving because they remember how bad 2020 was.
I get outside of their control.
Yeah.
I get outside. And there's another show, one of my favorite shows, Spartacus. The actor died. Spartacus died, and the actor died in season 1. So they did while he was trying to recover from cancer, they did a little mini prequel season, and then they came back with season 2 and 3 with a brand new actor playing, and then all the other regular actors pretending he's Spartacus. And the whole time you're thinking,
just tried to play it off as if he wasn't an entirely different person.
Yeah, he's a totally different person.
Wow.
You can't get the same person to look like him either. It's hard. You need someone with the acting chops, and maybe maybe has some similarities, but this guy didn't look anything like him, and it's fine. The actor probably did a great job. I'm not trying to treat him like a dude's cousin, but I'm just saying that it sucked. So I told people, I said, look, watch the first 2 seasons, or the season and the prequel season, and then take 6 months off, 3 to 6 months, however long it takes you to kind of forget some faces. And then watch season 2 and 3. That way you might not remember who all played who at first.
True.
So it might slip through, but it's not their fault. Again, this one's outside of their problem. I'm just saying it was a problem showing the flashback. You probably shouldn't have shown the flashback.
True.
And then plus, I don't think it showed any point because she's seeing all her friends in the background. So what's the point of having all these great memories with them? I get it. By the way, I don't care about that song. That song is super popular now. The song she was listening to by Katie. Never heard of it before, and now I hear it's popular. It's getting lots of plays again. People are listening to it again and rediscovering it. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody would have been nowhere without Wayne's World. Nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere. It's Megan's favorite song, but without Wayne's World, Megan doesn't know what that is.
No. Nobody knows Wayne's World. That changed the game for that song. Absolutely.
Nobody knows who that is. Nobody knows who that is.
Like Bohemian Rhapsody was like Vanilla Ice or MC Hammer or something like that. It was like the thing for a solid year, basically. It was all it was. That all people did was play that song. Are you seeing this now?
I'm seeing this. I'm going to just interject here from Mikey. He said he loved season 4. He thought that it was the second best season. And like I said, it's on par. I don't think it beats season 2. I think it's on par. But
have you watched season 2 lately?
I haven't watched season 2 lately, but I remember season 2 being a step behind season 1.
I'm with Mikey in that I enjoyed this season more than season 2 because I just did, knowing season 4 was coming, I just did rewatch 1, 2, and 3 back to back, and then went right into 4.
Oh, really?
Yep.
We'll let Mikey say this one. It really got back on track. We both agree on that.
Agreed. All 3 of us.
Yep. I like how dark it was in places. I do too.
I don't.
That's what tuned Megan out. The moment.
Really?
She said she was tired. The moment she flew up, like demon possessed.
Oh, right.
At every bone.
Right in the very beginning,
cool.
in the very first
the very first
episode.
ending of the episode. All her bones break in awkward areas.
Yep.
Her jaw breaks. Her eyes break. Her eyes are punched in. Horrifying. Then she flops to the ground. That was when Megan said, "Good night.
I'm out."
She's out because she's not going to do any of that. That looks too much like demon possession, and she's out.
And they do it over and over and over.
And it's funny because my little girl came down for water, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want them to show anything, creepy."
Yeah.
So I hit pause. Right as they show the street where the little kid died, in his face and everything, where they're kind of circling in on it. And I didn't know because they were talking to people before that, and I hit pause right as they showed the little boy, and then I'm talking to Piper, said, "What's wrong with that little boy?" And I went, gotta pause it just in case they were going to show something creepy, like the monster.
And then he made it worse because they put it.
Because I paused it right on. And I said, "No, he's just sleeping." But I didn't mind that. I didn't, and of course, okay, getting to the finale just a little bit. We're talking about the darkness here. How one is, just brutalizing people. Most of them were already dead. You see the bully kid get, crunched up.
Yes.
But other than that, it had gore, but you didn't see the gore. You saw the aftermath of the gore. It was gory.
In season 1, you're talking about?
Season 4.
4.
At the end, when one is destroying everyone and 11 wakes up seeing the same thing the doctor saw. Okay, that was gory, but you didn't see a lot of the gore. Well, what would you say? No, go ahead. You saw him crack the bully, but go ahead.
Honestly, my thought that came to mind was, let me see, I wrote it down just perfectly because it had the perfect analogy for this. Because I was thinking that I was Jeff Goldblum And I was like, look, your scientists were so preoccupied with it they didn't stop to think that if they should.
Yeah.
And that's my take on general violence and gore and everything else in a story, because if it's not adding anything to the story, like, you can make something horrifying. Jaws is beautiful because you see people die from the shark, but it adds to the terror of Jaws, and then you are really afraid of what could happen. But I'm like, we've seen this already. You're making it, it's not making it more dangerous to me. It's just you're doing it just because you can.
I thought it was to lead to the old rumor back in the 80s that Dungeons and Dragons was satanic worship.
No,
and
absolutely.
This was a satanic ritual killing.
Without question, that is a connection.
That's
yes.
why they did it, and I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm glad they brought in Dungeons and Dragons again. That was a theme that was missing from the every season.
From
of the
everything,
first one.
yeah.
And I'm glad they brought it back in. A dark sorcerer or whatever, and that just some of the role playing aspects. That's what they probably should have kept in their theme, and they left it after season 1, and that was why season 2 definitely was a step down. I like the analogies.
Yeah. The first thing I wrote was that I like the quote-unquote new story. I was tired of the old story of the Demogorgon and the Mind Flayer and all that. Like, I was just getting tired of this. And, like, good grief, how much bigger can it get? You know, because it just kept getting bigger and bigger, the demon, over the course of the seasons. And, and it just was obtuse and absurd and repetitive. And it relied so heavily on CG for season 3. And CG that... any listener of this podcast knows that I am not a fan. And
you got to use it sparingly.
You got to use it sparingly, and
Jurassic Park.
I don't even mind it if that's the prime example. But if
Jurassic World Dominion.
I don't mind CG at all if I feel it's adding to the story you are telling. If you're doing it just because you can, and just because you're paying an animator this much money, and you've got to give him work. That bothers me. Okay. And I was bored out of my mind with the CG shots. Now, just as I was writing that down, I was watching the season finale, I look up and there's this gigantically, horribly acted and CG'd like demon fight with all the little dragons, the baby dragons that came out and tried to eat him. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful.
It was the finale. We got, let's blow
up all the budget and everything.
Let's blow the rest of our budget. Right.
And I hated that scene.
And have you seen The Boys?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, on Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about the new...
The new...
Yes. Okay. No, I haven't watched that. No.
Okay.
All right. It just came out with the new season 2, right?
It uses CGI the right way.
Really?
It's very smart on when it uses its CGI, and it's about superheroes. And you think...
Oh, yes, I've heard about this.
Yeah,
yes.
You think they, really go all out during the finale, and they don't. I mean, they did the past season, because there was a big knockdown, drag-out fight, but... They use their CGI. Like, there's one moment, and I'm just going to mention this and move on, but there's one moment where you see the superhero's feet landing on the top of a billboard. That could have been done with a crane and a rope.
Of course.
So, but you get, and then it shows them they're up in the air.
Oh, they use CG
talking.
to do that?
No, they didn't use CG.
Oh, okay, good.
They just showed the real shot of him land, just his feet landing on.
Yeah.
Just you don't see him flying in. You just see his feet landing.
Clever camera
angle.
angle.
And then it goes back.
Yeah.
And they're on the billboard. So you assume that they flew on top of the billboard.
Right.
And the thing is, I was like, that's perfect. That's the way you do. You don't just show them flying and then jump on the billboard.
Why
just
do you need to do that?
CGI effect shot.
Right.
Be good with it. Be smart with it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
So just to get to some other.
So season 3 relied on CG way too much, is all I'll say.
I agree.
I just was bored half the time, and that's all.
Mikey says he's happy that they treated the kids as older. That's because they look like they were all mid-20s. I talked about that. He likes how Elle didn't come to save the day. Yes, that's one thing I despise about season 3, because and it's almost like the writers realized they screwed up, that 11 has to be the hero every time. Is dumb.
Yep.
In season 3, she was losing her powers, right?
Yes.
They're flickering.
Yes.
Okay? The thing is, well, now when it gets to the big monster, she's not the one that talks to Billy. Guess who it is? The sister!
Yep.
Who has the connection. No, but 11 has to get in his mind, see his conflict with his mom, that his sister already knew.
Right. Which I didn't care about at all.
But the sister has no storyline. She's a side character in season 2. She's really not utilized. They give her like a love interest.
That's true with Lucas.
But the thing is, though, that's all she's got. This is her time to shine, and now she's going to be the... Remember, because she was friends with 11. They went out shopping, and they did all this
stuff. That's right.
Okay, so now her friend is not the hero, because she loses... And that's what I thought they were going to do. And then the redhead girl, she saves the day.
Max.
For once. And I thought, this is great. And then they didn't do that. They said, no, it's got to be 11. Why?
Missed opportunity.
That was season 3. all in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity. Another missed opportunity from season 3 was rats. It was on the tip of my tongue and I lost it. But there was lots of missed opportunities from season 3, to be sure.
Agreed.
Let me see what else he say. I liked how they brought everything around and had a Tom Riddle Voldemort moment. Yeah, when he was.
I wrote that down.
And that is it.
Yeah.
I had a feeling toward the end when she was taking out the bug from his neck. I went, oh, that's an inhibitor. He's lying to her, and he is one.
Yep.
That's when I knew.
You figured that out from there?
Before he went on the killing rampage, when she shot it out of him, that's when I realized who he was. That may have been late in the game, but that's when I realized.
I didn't catch it, but I wasn't. Okay. Megan and I talked, and you and I talked about this before we recorded. That she and probably you too, I think, are the ones who you like to try to figure it out before it gets revealed.
Yeah,
right?
I knew there was something with him, and I didn't.
But
know
y'all typically watch movies in that way. If it's a mystery, I know you do actually, because you love figuring out like puzzles and plot twisters and everything else before they reveal it. My dad is that way too. He's like, I know who did it. Yeah. 5 minutes into the movie, and I'm like, well, what fun is that? And I don't care, because I think I may have said this before on here, but like when I go to a magic show, or especially like an illusionist show, just entertain me, man. Like, I'm here for the illusion. Look, did you see? He just cut that chick in half. That's amazing.
How'd he do that?
How'd he put her back together again? Exactly. I love that stuff. Exactly. Just like turn off my brain and tell me a story. And I don't care how they did it.
Agreed.
And it's great.
Agreed.
So
excellent.
That's what I like. But that's why I'm critical, because I just want to be told a good story.
But to be fair, that was toward the last moment when I figured it out.
True.
I think everyone knew by the time he was killing everyone.
Yeah, you kind of figured it out.
Like, figured it out.
I certainly figured it out way before he revealed his tattoo of being number one.
I did too. Yeah, I did too. Which is fine.
Right.
I mean, they were just showing that that's what the creature was.
Right.
I will say there is something else that's a little bad.
Please.
It's a little too movie cliche how he became the villain.
Yes.
How 11 somehow opens up a rift into the underground, which she's never done before and doesn't know how, why she would, why it hurt him to travel through there, why it turned him into that monster. I get why he hates 11 and everything. I get why he is who he is.
That's what part 2 is for.
Oh, boy. No, it won't explain that. It'll just say that that's how he became
That's who he is now.
And that was more like...
It's kind of like Palpatine becoming the Palpatine in episode 3.
It was Joker falling into the vat of acid.
Yeah!
It was Jamie Foxx falling into the vat of electric eels. It was Sandman falling into the vat of molecule sand.
It was Palpatine getting the lightning back in his face.
Yes, it's all of that to show you real quick. And then something happened, which has never happened to anyone who's traveled to the underground world, which we showed in this show, which I loved. But
yeah, that was cool.
But I was like, no, sorry. That was a little too much.
Cliche for you.
I do love that he was revealed to be the son. Did not see that coming.
I did like that. That was a great reveal. I loved it.
It's got to be his little brother.
Because you saw him. He was there, like in the original episodes. Yeah. And you saw the son, but you completely forgot about him. And they did great camera work.
And they even point him out, though. My son was very sensitive and blah, blah, blah.
And that was it.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, he looks like the kid.
He really does.
I didn't look this up.
It was a very exotic look.
It was a good casting, or they got his brother.
Or CG. Which it would be clever
you
use.
Think they CGI his face a little bit?
Well, because they did it with Elle when she was a little girl.
Right.
So they clearly did it with
maybe so.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Didn't check that.
So,
maybe so.
And that's not that hard to do nowadays. For the professional CG
de-aging
artists.
And stuff.
The de-aging is popular. Okay. The facial overlays are really...
True.
It's much easier for computers to do that now.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, it was
I
good,
think it's possible that they might have CG'd both of their faces.
That was a good reveal, and that's really all I needed. Maybe as he got to the underground world, something attacks him and turns him into that. Maybe, like something bites him.
I follow you. Right.
Maybe something a little bit more believable, because there's a lot of dangerous creatures out there.
Not the magic lightning bursts of whatever.
No, did not like that. Did not like that. And I think that's it for dislikes. There's a lot of things I did like about it.
I had a few dislikes.
Go ahead.
Let's see.
I may agree.
I will say the first thing that I did like, and I wrote down, is that I like the new story. Keep it going forever. I'm all for it. And this is one of the things that I think you said to me off of the podcast when we were talking about this topic. Is you're like, I'm worried now because they're going to just keep this story rolling for as long as the money comes in, and they just need to end it. And it's just like, come on, man, let's get it over with. And at first, I agreed with you. And then after watching season 4 and realizing it kind of was a new story, but kind of similar to what we already knew, so in the same universe, but explained more of it, but it was done with the Demogorgon stuff, and it was done with the Mind Flayer stuff, and I was just like, come on. And if it had been more of that, I might not have even finished this season, because I was just been like, okay, whatever. Because I let season 3 sit for over a year.
Before you watched it?
Yes, Brad, Kim, and I sat down, because I'll never forget that when I first moved back to town 5 or 6 years ago, and I was here for a little while, I had no furniture yet, and I had a mattress on the floor, and I had moved in like that day. And Brad and Kim and I ordered pizza on my first night back, and Stranger Things Season 2 had just been released. And we binged that entire thing that night with no expectation to do so. It was just so good that we were in it, so we kept going. And then season 3 came out, and we got excited because, we can make this another great moment and good memory that we had. I think we got through 4 of them, and then we were all just kind of like, all right, going home, going to bed.
Like a chore to watch.
It was a chore. And then they never picked it up again. I watched one more, and I think to this day they've only seen like 4 episodes of season 3.
Really? So they just gave up.
And I
don't blame them.
I didn't watch it for over a year. I forgot that it was out there. I didn't care. And then so I finally watched it again, and then I went back and I watched season 1, 2, and 3 back to back. But I'm happy that they did do a new story. Let me get back to what I didn't like. So here's something I did like. Here's something I did like. I did not like the CG, and it was too much. I didn't like all the gore. I didn't like all the extra blood. I didn't like all the horrible sound effects. There were several moments when I looked away, like when he was escaping from prison and getting the anklet off of him and breaking his own ankle and stuff. And all the, like, I tell you what it was a combination of what I loved and what I hated was, in the very first episode, when they reveal the new villain, and he comes around the corner in that dark shadow and slowly reveals himself into being, right before he kills the cheerleader girl. Yeah. Holy smokes, was I terrified. And I don't know if I just watched it late at night or if I was already scared by something, but that first episode really creeped me out, and I was excited. I was really excited because I had not been creeped out by Stranger Things, which was originally a very creepy-ass show. Like that episode 1, when that Demogorgon is in the road or whatever, like when you first get
he disappears where he's
it is terrifying. It's got great jump moments and great scary, just like, ooh, what is that? And in the end of season 1, I complained because they used the Demogorgon too much. And I was like, show me the villain. Don't keep showing me the villain. Right. And that was the same complaint that I had with this one. Like, I loved how spooky and scary and evil that guy, who's right out of someone's nightmare. And I think I've had a nightmare about that guy before. Yeah. But by the end of episode 2, I was like, they're showing him too much. And by the end of episode 2, they had shown what he does to people in the exact same way, and they did it again, and they did the disconfigure, and it was just used over and over. Okay. And that kind of disfiguration and horrible moment, you only have to do it once or twice, and the audience gets it. Okay, you're going to get effed up if you go around this guy, or if he picks you, then forget it. And so I just felt like it was too used, I guess, over and over again. And that's the way I felt about all of the not gore, but like you said, just the bloody moments or the gory. Like, it's something I hadn't seen before, and I did enjoy the difference, but it was just too much. It was done too many times. Like I said, they were just trying to fill the budget. Another thing, here we go.
You're reminding me of a few things.
When we recorded 2 years ago or so, we recorded one of my favorite episodes of this podcast, which is Top 5 Pet Peeves.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I'm about to go to here? One of my either honorable mentions, I think it was one of my honorable mentions, or in my top 5.
Go ahead and give it to me. I can't think right now.
Flashlights being shined into the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And you said to me, what? You mean they still do that now?
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to Stranger Things Season 4, my friend.
I didn't notice it, but there was a lot of flashlight moments.
Word. Yes. It was the worst possible. Like, you thought X-Files shined the flashlight into the camera a lot just to make you feel like you're there and blind you for a second?
Yeah.
There was one moment in the finale when they just left the flashlight on the camera, and I'm just like, okay, all right, that's fine, I get it. And I was just covering my eyes. I was like, okay, because I've got a really big TV and I have a lot of money invested in my very expensive TV, so I'm seeing everything in high def. And holy crap, if anybody had come in my room at that moment or my office, they would have thought, like, is the sun up? Like, what's going on with this light that's coming out of your TV? And I hated it. So, and there were a lot of flashlights and a lot of right in your eyeballs moments. So I hate crap like that. But it's just a silly pet peeve of mine, like I said, which is a great episode, and you should go back and listen to that because it's a lot of fun. So, and I think everything else on my list here are things that I did like, but that was my only real dislikes.
Hold on just a second, because you reminded me of a few things.
Hit me.
They're trying to get the couple together from the first season. Write Jonathan off. I'm not sure.
Jonathan did disappear kind of halfway through.
Yeah, he had his own adventure going on. So
yeah.
They were separated, so she's kind of falling back for Steve again.
Steve, right. Which is typical high school. Like, we're used to that from The Karate Kid or from Cobra Kai.
But for the past 3 seasons, you've been building up this relationship.
Yeah.
And now you want to do... You feel like you have to do something new.
Well, that's fine. I don't mind that. Like, I didn't feel like that's new. I think that's fine. That's typical of any kind of high school story romance.
And I'm going to hold... I want to reserve this one because it's not a complaint yet, because we haven't seen the second season. But if that forgotten memory of 11 is the reason that she couldn't get her powers and now she's got them back, you better explain why. I don't understand that.
Right.
That she had a forgotten memory so traumatic she blocked it out.
Right.
Okay, because you wanted to write in a new...
Well,
you wanted to write in something that you forgot.
I think we got to wait till the second part, because the only excuse we have is something that Papa said, and we know he's a liar.
That's right.
So
that's right. So I want to see if they explain it or they just drop it.
You're right.
A few other things. Will is a terrible actor. He's horrible. Okay. The kid who plays Will, he's horrible.
I don't think he's the worst.
When he got captured in the first season, that was great because we didn't see that much of him.
Yeah.
And I was excited to see more of him, but I was like, oh, he's not that good. And then as he just goes on and on in the series, he's just terrible. He's terrible. He's a terrible actor. Oh, well. I mean, no one really stood out to me as just being cringeworthy. I mean, he didn't even either, really, in a lot of moments. Like, there are just some actors you're just like, come on, another thing, the crazy,
like Billy from season 3, he was by far the best actor. Like, he was unbelievably good as just an actor. Well, maybe not the character, but Billy the actor was phenomenal. I was so impressed with him the whole time. But that's pretty much the only saving grace for me.
The redheaded girl, the other one, not Max. The other one who hangs out with Steve. Uma Thurman, Ethan Hawke's daughter.
Yes.
Did not know that.
Oh, yes, I did. I did see that. Yeah, I was really surprised by that. Yeah.
Didn't know that. I just want everyone to know, you're going to hate it, but in the 80s, there weren't...
What are you trying?
There weren't those type of relationships, and not everyone was fine with it back in the 80s.
That's true.
It was not... It wasn't that we ignored that in movies in the 80s.
No.
It just wasn't...
But I do like the way that they did introduce the fact, but because she revealed her sexuality and preference in season 3,
which was bad because they built up her and Steve the whole time, and the writers admitted that they changed it last minute. I was like, well, then don't make us care.
It felt last minute.
If they would have just established that at the beginning, it would have been fine. But you tried to make us care about these two getting together,
which is, I mean, that's understandable, I guess, from a storytelling perspective. That's fine.
Okay,
but what I did like is that in season 4, Dustin says, well, I don't understand why you just won't get together with her, because that's just completely a mystery that can't be solved. And he says, you just refuse to do it. And he turns to him and says, well, that's not the only reason. And he changes the subject.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that he's keeping her secret for her, because you don't talk about that in the 80s.
And she had nothing to talk about the whole season this time. She was more relevant in season 3. Yeah. So she was there to make the funny jokes.
Yeah, she became the ADHD poster child in a way. Like, she became the fast talker who did.
She was a little bit better in season 3.
She became really...
How can you be better in season 3? Season 3 sucked.
She changed the character, or they changed the character.
And I don't think they had direction for it. I don't think they had anything for her to do but make the wisecracks.
Maybe. No, they really didn't.
And everyone can make a wisecrack.
Right.
We don't need the comedic relief.
I should say that is a complaint that I did have, is that because a lot of the writing was pretty good, but it was pretty full of bad cliches.
Here we go. Parents are never that stupid.
No.
In 80s movies, they are. If they're doing an 80s movies thing, then
that's fine.
No parent was that dumb in the 80s.
No, but I love that.
Yeah, okay. Bullies were never, ever anywhere near that. There were bullies, but they were never anywhere like that.
That harsh.
And like the Your Daddy's Dead. Okay, there's not a single person who laughed or made fun of someone being dead. I mean, bullies just weren't, and everyone laughing. All the
and
kids
everyone laughing at them, right?
That's unrealistic. But if they're going 80s movies,
that's fine.
Okay.
That's the trope.
One thing that was really bad.
Hit me.
The internet did not exist like that back in 86.
Yeah.
Back in 86, it did not. If you want to see how computers work, look at Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Right.
And that they had to go, it was all hardwired in. There was no internet. There was no dial. I mean, certain maybe big cities had dial-up.
I like that they called out war games specifically, though.
I understand where they were going with that, but that technology was not around, and no one was a whiz kid knowing what the internet was.
Only the U.S. military had access to that, and that's
knowing
it.
all that smart girl who knew about the internet,
Susie.
What she talks about everything, the
IP addresses,
and stuff like that, and like there's 0 kids. There are absolutely 0 kids, and there were 1% of adults in the U.S. who knew that.
So unless Daddy was a military U.S. Secret Service, and
maybe
just
and he was stupid
as an idiot.
Yeah. So everyone being dumb. No. Okay. So, what next? What next?
And that's a pet peeve of mine in movies is when they quote unquote hack into something and then they just do it instantly. That makes me crazy. That's not how any of it works. But it's just come on.
They steer away from remember the Rubik's Cube, remember Pac-Man. They steer away from the cliche 80s stuff.
But they brought in a lot of really good stuff.
They brought in New Coke as a joke, which was great.
Which I loved. But that was in season 2.
But I know. But the thing is, though, for the most part, it's not like your typical that's so 80s TV show. They're showing authentic 80s style.
Yeah. They bring in the light bright at the end, which I loved.
Yes, but while no one is wearing a Return of the Jedi shirt is just not true.
That's unrealistic as hell.
But I understand they have right. But the thing is, though, stay away from a lot of the pop culture references. They didn't go for the super popular 80s. They went, like I said,
they did.
That was an unknown 80s song that she loves. To me, it was an unknown 80s song.
I mean, I've heard it, but it wasn't my most favorite thing in the world. But I'm glad it
wasn't like, Tiffany or Debbie Gibson or something that we would know. Well, I mean, even those would be obscure, but you know what I'm saying.
You think it was one of the Duffer Brothers' favorite songs?
Okay. Something like, Soldier Boy, Tarzan Boy.
Yeah. Good grief.
Okay, like I said, something that cliche. They go for obscure, and I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
What are we jumping to?
No, any of
what
your
we
notes.
liked.
What you like? Go ahead.
I liked that season 4 was not so full of itself as season 3 was, and I blame it. Like I call it hubris.
Yes.
With the Star Wars and Marvel series, they have become much more of a we are Star Wars.
We can throw any schlock up there.
We can trash, and you will love it no matter what. And if you
don't, there's something wrong with you, not us.
Correct.
We will never admit we were wrong.
Correct. And that is part of my disappointment with the writing and the acting and the way that Marvel and Star Wars movies are styled now, because it almost feels like a slap to the face, like they're just pushing it on us and they expect us to love it. Season 3 had that vibe to me. It's like, this is a multi-bajillion thing, and we're the best, and you're gonna love this, and we did not. So they saved it with season 4 for me, and so I was really happy that they pulled their heads out and got over themselves for season 4. And it wasn't perfect by any means, but it was definitely still cliche in some moments. But even the cliches were acted really well. Like David Harbour in this season 4, when he's in that Russian prison the whole time, phenomenal acting. Like the stuff he had to do. I mean, I believed it. I believed all of it. And what I really loved is that they broke the cliche, because you thought he was going to get out like 3 times. And you're like, all right, well, he broke out of prison now. And then boom, back in prison. And then he got out again. And then boom, back in prison. And it was like, I hadn't seen that in a while.
When he was in the church eating peanut butter, who didn't think
that
he was going to show up and wind around and go, wait, we were coming to rescue you.
Yeah, it was going to be another cliche moment.
He was going to walk into the hangar.
But that's a part of that's one of the things I was talking about that was such good acting, because when you went in there and he tasted that peanut butter, oh my God, you believed him that he had been starving to death.
And you thought it was home free.
And he thought he was good. Boom, arrested again and put back in the prison. It was I loved it. And then at the end, he's clearly taunting the other Russian guard, and he's getting in a fight, and you can see, he's going to try to take the guard's gun, and then he does, and then he gets it doesn't matter. He still gets thrown in another prison cell. And it was great. I loved that they kept making you believe that part.
Great.
So that was a big thing that I loved.
Correct.
Let's see. I thought they showed the Demogorgon too much in the first one, and I felt the same way with this bad guy.
You said that one, yeah.
And then talked about the story. Oh, and I was going to say that with the CG, if it doesn't add anything to the story, I have this image of a Kathleen Kennedy type producer walking around the studio just nodding at everything. So, oh yes, that looks great.
Let's put some CGI in
with
there.
no understanding of the overall story, but just saying, let's do this because that looks good. And just like, who cares? And it's a producer who's just not that into the story. And that there are writers, because some of the writing I can see either it's being delivered wrong or it's being directed wrong. But I can just see these writers at home with like watching the final product because they deliver a script and they're done. And a lot of times they're out. Most directors don't want a writer on set because they, get picky about stuff.
Right.
I can just see these writers at home like with their heads in their hands just saying, "Oh my God, I wrote it perfectly. How did they screw that up? That is not at all the scene that I just wrote because they delivered it entirely wrong." So I saw that happen a few times, but for the most part, it was extremely well acted, and that I can get behind. So if acting is good enough, I don't care if it's cliche or not. And then, let's see, the last, a constant flashlight I talked about. Now, here's the other thing I really did like, and I'll let me see if I want to finish with that. I did like what Mikey said about the combination of Voldemort, and I said,
I saw that too.
Combination of Voldemort and evil Professor X with like the villain monologue. When he went off and started monologuing, I was like, oh, this is classic 80s movie. Like, give me the villain at the end and tell me your motivation and your
I didn't
story.
mind that.
I enjoyed that big long monologue. So the other thing I wanted to add is I did also like the trigger warning at the very beginning with the first episode because we just had that mass shooting in Texas. Right. And then literally the day after, the opening scene of one of the biggest, most anticipated shows on television. And they had to say, we filmed this a year ago.
Yeah. They had to
sorry, but it can be very triggering. And I really feel like a lot more shows, as violent as they are, should have trigger warnings at the beginning of them because trauma is such a big deal, and it's it's hard when you have somebody in your life who has been traumatized, and then it's just thrown in your face, and that's hard.
It's not just that, but it's just to help them explain that, guys, this shooting didn't happen, and we just filmed it the next day.
Yes,
we're not doing this to be callous and cold.
Yes,
we're explaining to you this got filmed a while ago.
Correct.
It was unintentional that the events sadly came together. It's like I remember the Spider-Man 2 trailer. Remember?
No.
That he ties up the helicopter between the two towers?
Oh,
they premiered that.
Yes,
that was their big commercial.
Well, of
and
course.
Then the two towers.
Now there is some political, you have to do that to some extent because it's such a big story. Now the thing, I'm pulling for more shows to embrace the trigger warning stuff because mass shootings happen all the time. Right. Not as bad as little kids getting shot, but it's not like gun violence doesn't happen every day for people. And so I think that things like that, anytime you've got such a horrendous scene on television, whether or not that shooting in Texas had just happened, they still need to put that kind of a warning on shows because especially when you're dealing with something that is so popular and kids that are 11 years old are watching this and parents who have little kids that are watching this and who have been victims of gun violence before.
Yeah.
Whew, that's just brutal. And that files into a lot of what, is this really necessary to tell the story? And does it have to go on for this long? Because that's what I didn't like.
That's a hard question to answer.
I mean, you're right. And that could come down to artistic differences. Yeah. But for me, the story just didn't get anything added. You get the screaming, you get the blood, you get maybe a dead body or two, but you can imply a lot of that. And then you don't have to keep it. Like that scene just took forever for them to show every single dead person in the room. It just was like, come on.
I think it was to show that this was a horrifying moment and whatever was going on, and we were led to believe, obviously, that Eleven did it.
Yes.
And, and obviously bad timing, but
Agreed.
At the same time, they realized that and gave the trigger warning. And yeah, maybe you're right.
Could have
Anytime
been
it has to involve kids.
Could have been a 5-second scene, and it didn't need to be a minute long.
Do you remember
scene.
the X-Files episode that aired once on TV and then never again?
No.
It had a warning label on it because they bury a mutated baby. A live mutated baby in the ground.
No,
That's how the episode starts.
I didn't remember that it had that
And
Trigger
it's kind of
warning
grotesque,
like that,
and
no.
they basically bury him alive
Wow.
in the ground without a coffin.
Oh.
And they had
And they haven't
warning
even
on there.
showed it again?
And if I recall, they never aired it again
Because
on
it was
TV
that
because it was
controversial?
still very controversial when
Wow.
they aired it.
Wow.
And you're thinking, why did they need that? I mean, they showed the story, but the thing was, it was a very moment.
Now that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind the moments, and that's good. But it felt like every moment was just drawn out way too
Yeah.
long for this.
Don't
It's
watch.
one of my pet peeves in general movies is when there's a sex scene. You don't have to show me them humping for like 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Like, come on, we get it. They're having sex. Like, why do you have to show me all of this nonsense?
Agreed, but it's funny now that they avoid the nudity. 'Cause that's oogling women, which is bad now. So we've developed some modesty in this day and age. But yeah, you're right. The scene that goes, but you can always show a male's buttocks for some reason. You can always show the male buttocks for everything.
And that's fine. Whatever.
Now, there is.
But don't show me male's buttocks for like 20 minutes.
There is one show, Spartacus, that happened back in the early 2000s that did show everything.
Sure.
But the thing is, though, you want to fast forward to those, but they're scheming on what their plan is. They actually have the sex scene and deliver dialogue.
Now that's fine.
And yeah, but it makes it awkward because there's a 50-50 shot that when my wife comes in, I'm watching a remake of Gladiator or porn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
Take
and
your
I was
pick.
like, oh.
Right.
And you can't fast forward through any of those scenes because the women are hot. I mean, because
the story is being
because
told.
the story is being
Yes.
developed during
And
then.
that's fine. I guess
Yeah.
if they write it that way. One of my favorite authors wrote, I love a good boots scene is what he called it, which is basically you don't ever have to show people having sex. You just show them
I
kissing,
agree.
you fade to black, and then the next
we
morning
get it.
you
We
see
get
somebody
it.
putting their boots on. And
get
that's
it.
his boot scene.
That's
Like
all
you
we
know
need.
what happened.
I agree with that too.
And you got the woman half covered up by the sheet and everything, and you know what's up. And
Yep.
that's the
Same
way
thing
it always is,
Yep.
and that's fine. There's no reason to be the gratuitous sex, but that isn't even my issue. It's not the sex. It's just the why am I still watching this? And the violence was just too much.
Don't watch The Boys. To be fair, violence is played as a shock comedy thing.
Yeah.
It's very gory.
I see. Well, I'm
but
not
a lot
really
of
a fan
times
that
it is
type.
a shock moment, like what just happened, and a lot of times it is a comedic moment, which is very odd because you're like horrified what you just saw.
Horrified, but then you start
it's supposed to be a
laughing,
comedic moment.
I got you. Yeah, that's not for me.
No, it's not going to be for you. I just realized that. Now I don't know. Well, no, never mind. I was going to suggest a movie, but no, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk about it next Saturday.
Morning.
Samoflange!